Thank you so much for that lovely introduction. Unfortunately, Tererai can't be here today. She's in Zimbabwe at the moment. But this is the book that we published together, Sacred Promise. It's an anthology, a collection of stories. We have a number of the Sacred Promise authors in the room with us today, including Sarifa, Katy, Judy, and Serena, and Caroline. So I'd like you to just close your eyes for a moment and think back to when you were 14 years old. Do you remember the house you lived in? The school you went to? Your friends? The music you were into? Now open your eyes. Because when Tererai Trent was 14, she was told that she was to be married to someone. It wasn't a choice that she'd made or a person she'd chosen. That's how it had been for generations of girls in her family. Her mother, her grandmother, her great-grandmother had all been born into this tradition. And it sets them up for a lifetime of poverty, abuse, illiteracy. They don't have the opportunity to go to school, to get an education, to follow their dreams and choose the careers that they want to pursue. That's taken away from them. And Tererai was married at 14. By 18, she had 4 children. But someone came to her village, an American who was working in the community, and she sat down with the women and she asked each of them, "What is your dream?" And this was an incredible question. Tererai says that no one had ever asked her what her dream was before, but she had dreams. She had incredibly big dreams. She dreamt of getting her high school diploma, getting her education. She dreamt of going to America to get her university degree. She dreamt of getting her master's and then her PhD. She's so incredible. She actually did that. It took her 8 years just to get her Year 12 certificate. She had to do it by correspondence, sending her exams off to Cambridge. It would take months and months by mail to send them there, and then months and months to get them back. And so many times they came back and she'd failed. But instead of giving up or quitting, she'd try again. And finally, she did get her high school certificate. And then her next challenge was to get to America to do her university studies. And she used visualization. She'd never seen a plane before, let alone been on one. But every day she would visualize herself getting on that plane and walking down the aisle and being shown her seat and flying to America. Incredibly, she made it happen. Even though she was very poor, she called on the women of her village to support her. And the women all helped in every way that they could to get her to America, to get her education. Because she knew that the only way to change that tradition that had been going on for so many years in her family, her mother, her grandmother, all of the women before her, being born into a lifetime of early marriage, illiteracy, poverty and abuse, she knew that the way to change that was through education. And she didn't want that to be her story, or the story for her daughters or her children. And so she made a sacred promise to herself to change that for her family and to change that for the women and girls in her community. And the work she does with Tererai Trent International Foundation pays for girls to do education. It upgrades their schools so that they have quality education, and it also supports them to not just graduate high school, but to go on to tertiary education, to college and to university. And she is creating cultural change in her village. She told me a story the other day of a girl who had studied mechanics and came back to the village, and one of the cars had broken down. And so she was under the car, fixing the car, and all the men in the village were standing around seeing what was going on. And then, this girl jumped up from under the car and said, "Okay, give it a try now." And the car started, and the men were blown away. And her own dad was obviously proud as punch, but the other men in the village were saying, well, maybe my daughter should be getting an education and becoming a mechanic. Maybe there is a different future for her than just being married at 14. And so it's pretty incredible. Tererai is actually creating cultural change within that village. She's giving these girls opportunities to get their education and to create their own future and follow their own dreams. Sacred Promise is a book filled with stories like this of women who are making a promise to themselves to create change in their lives and the lives of others. All the proceeds from the sale of this book go to the Tererai Trent International Foundation to change the lives of girls. And thank you so much for having me here today. I know that Tererai Trent dearly wanted to be here, and she's very happy that we're launching her book in Melbourne today. Thank you so much.